She's his fiance's younger sister. He's the man she's always loved. When her sister doesn't show up on her wedding day, Raven has no choice but to take her place. But marriage to Ares Windsor is nothing short of torture. The elusive billionaire media mogul is the man she's always loved, yet he's only ever had eyes for her sister. Married to him at last, Raven is determined to win him over. After all, everything's fair in love and war, and this is war. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome back to the Bibliophile's Bookcase. This episode is going to be different as well as the episode on Thursday. As we all know, my podcast is dedicated to Black authors and trying to push their work out there and talking about Black authors, like I said. But this episode is going to be featuring Catharina Maura. I hope I said that right. And if I didn't, please forgive me. But I wanted to discuss two of her books that I loved so much. And, I think I'm also going to try to just take a break at sometimes to just, throw a random book in there. But for the majority, as you can see, for the past 113 episodes, I talk about Black authors, and that's what my platform is about. So, but on to The Wrong Bride. Let's jump into it. So we have Raven Dupont, who is a model as well as a fashion designer, and she's trying to get her brand off of the ground. Now she's been like working really hard lately, not really communicating with anybody, but her sister Hannah is getting married to her friend Ares. Now, technically, he's more than just her friend. She's always been in love with him. And technically, she was supposed to marry him first. Um, Ares and his sister, Sierra, right? It's either Sierra or Senna. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank. Um, they're the Windsor. So they're billionaires, a quote unquote made family, but not in the mafia way. And they're known for arranged marriages. Now, Raven's parents, they wanted to retire and, give up their business and merge with the Windsors. So, what sounded like a great idea, also included, because Raven was Sierra's friend, it's like, oh, great, then you can marry Ares. But then Raven said she made the mistake of taking Hannah with her to Sierra's 21st birthday party. And ever since Ares laid eyes on her sister, it's been them ever since. And so she's helping in the planning of her sister's wedding to the man of her dreams. And this is where we're going to pull over, well, the first part, because I think if I get the rant out now, the rest of the story, I can just, go on with it. Fuck Raven's parents, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Especially, I don't know, because I've said this before. I think it was episode 75 when I was talking about the Kimberly Brown story. Her parents, it's the same thing. Raven's mama is so shitty to her. She constantly talking down on her, talking shit about her. And it's like, your sister just has it so much harder. She's going through more. Because Hannah was sick as a child. So this, I feel like I'm jumping ahead of myself, but I was so worked up. I'm getting worked up again. Like when I first read it and then talking about it now. Because it's like, okay, she's over at her parents' house talking about planning Hannah's wedding, right? And she said something about, like, how I've been busy. And the mama is like, oh, because she mentions how Hannah's been waiting for this day. And Raven says, well, she don't push this wedding back 3 times. So how anxious can she be to get married? And here comes the mama, like, she works so hard, like, but it's like, you're comparing an actress to a model, and it's like both of their jobs are hard, but she's showing favoritism towards Hannah, and she's like, she works in less than favorable, conditions while you just stand there and take pictures. And it's like, honey, since we've been able to see in America's Next Top Model, ain't nothing simple about just standing there and taking pictures. They work really hard. It's like all you see is a picture, but the way they gotta bend their bodies and whatever the weather conditions are, like she just shits on Raven so bad and it pisses me off. And so Raven, as a child, you're still working to, even though you know that your parent is treating you like shit, you're still working to gain their approval and, trying to get them to like you. So she just takes it. And then as she's leaving out the door, here come her dad talking about, honey, let me walk you out. And he's like, I love you and your mom does too. She just has a hard way of showing it. And Raven called him out and was like, but she shows love for Hannah, and this is what I meant by he tries to explain it away. I'm like, she couldn't do anything for Hannah like when she was sick, so this is her making up for it. Her abusing one child trying to make up for another child being sick is no excuse at all. And the fact that you played in her face pisses me off so bad. And so Raven just has to deal with it all the time. And I'm just like, y'all are so shitty parents. And it pisses me off. Like, why would you do that? Pay, Playing favoritism or having a favorite child while throwing it in the other child's face is crazy to me. And so, child. Okay, but anyway, so let's press it forward. So Ares and Raven, like I said, they're friends, but she's been avoiding him because it's just like, I was supposed to marry you, but now I'm no longer marrying you. And it hurts to see the person that you're in love with not only get married to somebody else, but that somebody else is your sister. And fuck Hannah too. I don't care about her being sick as a child because she also plays that shit up as well. And she is also rude to Raven and, just makes everything about her. So fuck her too. Double fuck her, but we're gonna get to that later. Um, so we're planning for the wedding. She even goes with him to pick out a birthday present for Hannah, which she does every year. Which I'm with her best friends here. It's like, why are you torturing yourself this way? Like, just leave it alone. Don't distance yourself from them. You ain't got to be around them. Like, don't do that. But it's like the Cinderella complex. Like, it's so nice to the point. I mean, she's so nice to the point where it's like you kind of just want to shake her, like, girl, what the fuck? We don't do this. It's not for some get back around here. But anyway, so we get to, I think it's like a week before the wedding, or like a couple days before the wedding, and Hannah is trying to postpone the wedding again. And Aries is like, no, you cannot do this. And so it's the day of, and like everything is still going on, like all the plans, everything is being set up. And when she doesn't show up, Raven has to step in because it's like one of the two sisters, somebody is getting married to Aries. And so Raven has to step in and she actually gets married to Aries. And not only Hannah, but also her parents are just like, how could you do this to her? You know that she's supposed to be married to him. And it's just like, but y'all literally left her no choice though but to do this. But more so, the mama and Hannah just act like she did, like, she basically stabbed him in the heart and smiled while doing it and walked away from him. Like, they treat her like shit. And on top of her having to deal with that, then she also has to deal with, okay, now I finally got the man that I love, but it's awkward. And they're not like that with each other. So it's kind of like they just cross each other in the night because they're staying in the same house. And it's just awkward at first. And I'm just like, okay, so this is where my first critique comes in, because while I love the book, it was a lot of repetition. And I do not like that about the story, because it was the same old of, we're kind of getting close, but as soon as we attempt to do anything, we break apart. And once again, like, oh, we're almost gonna kiss, but no, let's go back to acting like things didn't happen. Which I understand, because it's like it makes for a great story, but after reading it for the third time, it's like, when is the story gonna move along? So I think that might be my only critique. Like, as far as writing goes, it's like, I've read this same scenario three times in your story already. It's time to move on to something else. But that's basically like the whole story up until like the end, where we finally move along. So it's them like, almost like, yeah, we could be together. Like, they start having sex. But even with them having sex, it's still like, this is gonna end eventually. Um and so he discovers, because he's okay, which also pisses me off, because I don't understand, because in the midst of them going through this weird phase of, we're actually married, oh, I'm actually attracted to you, like, I actually might want to be with you instead of your sister, he keeps having this flashback of thinking that night at Sierra's 21st birthday party, he had sex with Raven. But when he woke up the next morning, he woke up to Hannah. So it's like, no, I must have had sex with Hannah. And that's how their relationship grew, Hannah and Ares, because he woke up in the bed with her. Okay, we haven't got there yet. But man, when I tell you, fuck Hannah, fuck Hannah. Um, so it's been that thing, like, I've imagined you in this way, but I haven't overstepped, because I've been in this relationship with your sister. And Hannah, even though she didn't show up to her own wedding, which is like, girl, this is your fault. If you hadn't have did what you did, like, you trying to take a stand against this family, like, okay, if I don't show up to the wedding, there's not going to be no wedding. And their grandma is still around. She calls all the shots. So it's like, girl, if I said it's gonna be a wedding, it's gonna be a wedding. But you're trying to make everybody else around you feel bad for you, and she turns on Raven even more, basically saying, like, you did this to me. And then she pops up like a couple months later talking about she's pregnant. So it's just like, she's moved into their house now, and it's back to being awkward between them. And it was one part that pissed me off so bad, because it's like, when Raven tries to put her foot down, then Hannah goes crying, and I think she tripped or something like that. It was like, it was her own fault, but Ares runs in and asks Raven, like, what did you do? I'm like, that, when I tell you, I would have wiped my hands of the whole situation and left. I'd have been like, baby, y'all got it. I'm not putting myself through this anymore. And that was another thing. Hold on, I gotta find it, because it was the passage that made me cry from this story. Give me 1 second while I find it. Um, because it was like, okay, so this is Raven talking to Ares, and she says, quote, "It's just too much, Ares. I feel so unwanted, so unloved. I just I feel like a failure. Like, no matter what I do, I won't ever be what anyone wants me to be. Even work was a nightmare today, and how could I fail so miserably? It's one thing to fail at everything else in life, but my career is my escape. Today I really needed one single win, just one. And baby, when I tell you, like, I'm tearing up right now at the fact, I'm like, that's my whole life. Like, I just need one thing to go in my favor to feel like this life is worth actually getting up and, living for. And when you constantly have everybody around you coming down on you in some type of way, even if they don't feel like it's a dig at you, but it is a dig at you, it's just like, I feel like at any moment I could just collapse and it fucking hurts, bro. It's just like, okay, this is not about me. This is about Raven. But I'm just, Jesus. Not me actually crying. It was something about that passage. Like, I have held on because I read this like a while back in 2022, but I have held on to that passage for so long because it's just like, and then when you feel like, okay, I'm at my job. Now, this is not my life because I don't want to work at where I'm working. I want to do this. Like, I want to read and just do my podcast for a living. And I'm hoping one day it actually takes off because this is what I want to do. But anyway, Raven, it's just like, that's my escape. That's what I'm great at. And even that, like, I couldn't find solace in that. Like, bro, just just stick a fork in me. I'm fucking done. Um, but anyway, and you know what? It's the fact, and you know what? Fuck everybody. Like, I know I'm all over the place, but I'm just like, Aries, you get a little bit of this too. Because, like I said, you had the feeling that it was always Raven all along, but you felt like you had to stick with Hannah. And even then, like when they actually do get married, because she had to wear Hannah's dress, she was walking around wearing Hannah's ring. She didn't want none of that. She wanted to get like custom made rings. And Aries took her to like this jeweler, like real exclusive. Can't too many people come in here or know anything about it. But it's the fact he took Raven there with no problem. He was like, I feel like I couldn't bring Hannah here. So it's like, you knew for a motherfucking fact that bitch wasn't the one for you, but you was dragging it along anyway. And I'm just like, y'all was torturing yourselves because Raven, as much as I love you and identify with you, girl, you tortured yourself. It's like, it's a lot of shit that you went through that I feel like you just did not have to go through, honey. But anyway, in the end, oh, I forgot. How could I mess this up like this? Anyway, so the whole thing with Aries and Hannah, nobody knew that they were together as a couple. Like, it was real low key. It was only the family that knew they were together and knew they were engaged and knew that a wedding was happening. Because the way the wedding was being planned, the invitations were just to, like, people thought they were coming to a party, but it was the actual wedding. So when the wedding happened and he got married to Raven, that was the big surprise and it hit the blogs, whatever. So when Hannah comes around like a couple months later talking about she pregnant and she didn't want to say anything, she tells Raven, I want my man back, basically, like, give him back to me. And when Raven refuses, she's like, well, I got the baby, so I'm always going to be here. Like, I'm always going to be around, and I'm having his first child. So who do you think he's going to care about more? And he always wanted to be with me instead of you anyway. You were just a placeholder. And when I tell you, I would have whooped Hannah's ass. You don't talk to me while you pregnant and you can't act like you can't throw hands, because we gonna fight. I don't give a damn about you being pregnant. I would have whooped Hannah's ass. I'm telling, like, words mean things. I hate when people say because you can't control your emotions or you can't handle a verb. No, sometimes you say shit and it causes people to swing. But anyway, so when it got to the point when Ares had came in, like when I said, and he asked her, what did you do? Uh, and Raven was like, I can't do this anymore. And he's like, no, give me a chance to make it work. Like, I love you. I want to be with you. Because they had got to that point where they finally let all the emotions out. Like, I love you and I want to be with you. I want to make this work with you. And she's like, I can't do, because it's always going to be me, you, and her, and now a baby. I can't do that. So she leaves and she runs to a friend of hers. And, they keep her on lock until Aries shows up. Because Hannah had went to the blog. So it had got out to the blogs, like basically Raven is a man stealer, and she has started losing business, started losing modeling gigs because everybody just jumped right on it and act like she was a home wrecker when she wasn't. But he bought the magazines that was talking shit about her, and then like he got on national TV and basically set the whole thing straight, like this is what really happened, so please do not think badly of my wife because she's not a bad person, she's actually the most innocent person in this whole situation. And so then he shows up at the friend house on a at first he pitched a tent out in the lobby because it's like, if she's here, then this is where I'm gonna be at, even though he didn't know if she was in the house or not, because the friend wouldn't confirm it. Um, so then he pitched the tent. He had the mayor help him pinch a tent in the lobby because at first I forgot the friend had called the police and he was escorted out, but it's like he literally turned right back around with the mayor who helped him pitch a tent in the lobby. Like, I'm not going no damn where. So, and then there's like a helicopter that comes and you can hear it out the window. So when they all go step outside, it's like a message. I forgot what the message said, but it was like the amount of time she had been away. And he was like, tell me that you're still mine. And then he starts coming down the steps. And that was like the scapegoat to get her outside. So he sees that she's still there. He climbs down. And when he climbs down, he sees that his sister and his brothers are there because they showed up to check on her. Like, we just want to make sure you're all right. And everybody knew how she felt about him all this time. So, of course, they ran to be by her side. And he had been asking everybody like where she was, but nobody would tell her. And it had been like a week. So anyway, they kiss and make up. And it's like, of course I can be with you. I love you. We'll figure it out. Whoop de whoop. Come to find out, Hannah ass not even pregnant with her lying ass. She was just trying to break them up. And it's like, you and him, like, y'all didn't even have chemistry like that. It wasn't the relationship she tried to make it out to be. She really just did not want her sister to have him. Like, man, when I tell you fuck Hannah, and I'm sorry, but Raven, it's like, baby, when you really found out she wasn't pregnant, I really would have whooped Hannah's ass. And it's fuck her mama forever. I would have been stopped talking to her. And at some point, because her mama was acting a fucking fool when she first got married to Aries, she did stop talking to him. She stopped talking to the daddy too, because it's like, man, fuck all y'all. And I know I've said that a lot this episode, but I'm sorry. It's just like the whole, like, everybody's trash. Everybody's trash. But it was a great read. In the Kindle, I believe at the bottom, it's like a 3.5 hour read, but I read it quicker than that because when I was reading it, I could not put it down because I did love it. But like I said, I feel like I'm just gonna say it now. When I talk about the next story, I believe it's called Ties That Bind. That's gonna be my same critique. It's like we went through the same scenario of we're getting closer. I see you. I'm starting to notice things about you, but then pull back. We can't really do this like 3 or 4 times when I feel like maybe two would suffice. And then, like, after that, let's move on to something else. But besides that, great read. I loved it, and I implore y'all to go pick it up. Peace and blessings, my beautiful people.